Hi everyone, you are watching Pfaff YouTube and I am so pleased to welcome Mark Basili from McLaren Toronto. And we are talking about this all-new McLaren Elva, which is actually the lightest car that McLaren has ever produced aside from Formula One, right Mark?
That's right, yep.
And this is a new release. We have this for a short amount of time here in Toronto and then it will make its rounds. But
That's
how
right.
exciting, because this is a pre-production
That's
model.
right, yeah. So I mean, basically, if you guys have watched any North American reviews on the car, this is the car that's been reviewed. So super excited to have it. I mean, we feel very fortunate that we have it north of the border for a short period of time, but nonetheless, it gave our customers who have Elvas on order an opportunity to experience the car, which is something you usually never get to do on a car as exclusive as this. I've been able to drive the car as well. I can tell you it's a completely surreal experience, to say the least, driving a car that's basically the lightest car they've ever made, one of the highest horsepower cars ever made, and lacking the windscreen, which is the craziest part about the car.
That's right. Yeah. It's like the first thing you noticed, obviously. No windscreen, no windows.
Yeah.
What was the idea behind this incredible design?
Basically, it's a pretty simple idea, and other manufacturers have done it as well, but it's basically no separation from exterior to interior. So you're basically cocooned in a vehicle and exposed to the elements, which is very much like a Formula One drive.
I wanted to ask you, Mark, about the concept behind this car, because as we're seeing, there's no windshield, there's no windows.
Yeah.
Tell us about
definitely
idea.
Unique. I think to sum it up, when we had the designers here introducing the car to very specific clientele, they said, we want you to basically feel like you're skydiving from behind the wheel of your McLaren. So I think that really sums it up. You can imagine a car that weighs less than 12,000 kilograms with over 800 horsepower, and without a windscreen, I think you're traveling well above and beyond terminal velocity. So I think that they were a little bit easygoing with their phrase there. And having driven the car, I can tell you that's probably exactly what it would feel like. It's absolutely bananas.
And it's obviously, it's street legal. Which is, people are asking, can I drive this on the regular road? Is there anything they need? Do they need helmets, or are they good? I know there's a special air system that helps with the airflow.
That's right, and I mean, up until this point in time, I really wasn't a huge fan of the windshield-less or windscreen-less cars, because they weren't really drivable. You know, it was a collection piece. You had to wear a helmet. And you could get kind of, battered in the face with things. But McLaren came up with a great idea, and they call it an active air management system. And it's actually all done through the front end of this car here. So what it does is the airflow that travels through the nose of the car is actually redirected, and it comes up through these vents. And what that does is it creates a different pressure zone here. This spoiler will actually deploy up to around here, and what that does is it helps create an artificial air bubble over the top of the cockpit. So they say up to around 70 miles an hour, you have like a cone of silence. And basically what that's going to do is just redirect all the airflow over top of the cabin and down the rear car, so you can have an enjoyable experience without wearing a helmet. The car does come with bespoke helmets, so if you were to order one, you would get 2 bespoke helmets. There's actually, as a driver, you would wear one. There's another cubby hole right under there to store the second one. But the idea is that you don't have to drive it with a helmet. I think it is the only car that the manufacturers thought of, how do we get away with that? And it's super unique as a result, because it's functional, it's drivable, yet there's no windscreen. So,
When I look at other McLarens here in our showroom, I see that there's more pieces to the car, more body panels, right? When I look at this, I'm seeing...
Great observation.
It's incredible, because it looks like it's been put together with just a couple of pieces.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's where a lot of the money kind of goes to in the car, in my opinion, because the whole car is built from carbon fiber, obviously, but so is the body paneling on this one to save weight. So great eye. Most people haven't kind of noticed that on the car. But if you look, the whole front clamshell is actually one piece. So if you look here, right at the fender bleeds down to the bumper, is the whole hood of the car, and it's seamless, which is great for aerodynamics. Formula One cars, they even tape off little body panel gaps for airflow. So realistically, you basically have your front clamshell, you have your 2 doors, and you have this massive piece here that starts all the way from the front wheel well, is the skirt of the vehicle, and actually climbs up to the rear quarter panel and all the way to the back. So yeah, you're right. I mean, fundamentally, the car is really made up of 3 true pieces amongst little tiny like bumperettes and tonneau covers and dashboard here. So yeah, no, great observation. It's super unique. It's super clean. And that's the one thing I love about the car is that we're so used to seeing a lot of cuts.
Yes.
And the fact that there's no cuts, I mean, it's just all encompassing. It's distracting almost, right?
It is.
You're looking for it, and it almost looks like a piece of art that shouldn't be a functional vehicle, but
Totally.
it is.
It
So
has
it's-
that concept car look, but
Yeah.
it's really real.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's show the interior. In terms of McLaren, did they make any changes to what they typically do in an interior, or does it fit that McLaren look and feel?
Well, it definitely shares the DNA of our other cars. So
Yeah.
it's all based upon the driving position, the visibility throughout. I mean, this car has no A pillars, B pillars to contend with. So the visibility you have while driving the car is insane. It's better than anything else I've ever driven before. But to your point as to what's different, well, the fact that we don't have a windscreen, we've really had to try to change the way that the ergonomics and the functionality of the interior works. So very similar to the Artura, we do have a steering wheel attached to the instrument cluster. So as that moves up and down, they stay in unison with one another. Another thing too is if the seating position is actually the lowest seating position we've ever had in a car. And the reason for that is actually just to keep your head kind of a little bit lower. You can see it's almost directly in line, just with maybe a couple inches above the steering wheel. And that's just for the airflow. You don't want your head popping up above the bubble because then it's going to be susceptible to any of the debris. And then also too, people, they're asking, they're going about, well, speakers, sound systems. Yeah, you can do a sound system in the car. Obviously putting speakers up high in the doors or in the dash is going to get washed out by the airflow traveling past the car. So what we've actually done is we stuck it behind your head. So you have two speakers behind your head. They do work. I've driven the car. You can hear them. It's not a real robust sound, but nonetheless, if you want to enjoy music while you're driving, you absolutely can. And then also with venting, yes, we do have air conditioning. Yes, we have heat in the car. But all those vents have to be placed really low now. So they're kind of more in line with the center console as opposed to the top of the dashboard. And because you want it to flow down your legs and kind of up your body and around your neck. And having driven it on some colder days, it actually works.
Excellent.
So it is fully functional. There's no, function follows form. And then on top of that too, if you take a look at the seats, the seat base itself is actually quite short. Something that not a lot of people notice on the car, but it is the shortest base we've ever created. And the reason for it is to allow easier ingress and egress.
Okay.
So if you look at the size of the sill on this car here, you do have, I don't want to call it a Formula One side pod to climb over, but it is substantial compared to our other cars. So because the seat base is shorter, it allows you to kind of step into the vehicle and then sit down. That's right. Yeah.
Mark, let's talk about the purpose in terms of the design of the back of the car. It sort of slopes down, and you were telling me there's no extra spoilers or much happening.
Well, we have a big active rear spoiler on it, but like a lot of the Ultimate Series cars, they have a lot of basically movable parts in the front of the car, which we don't have with the Elva. We have the active air management system to create the artificial dome over the cabin, but it's really not meant for downforce or performance. So the way that we are able to make up for that is basically through a solid floor and the rear end. So if you look at the rear end of this car, I think arguably it's the best angle of the car. The massive diffuser, all the cutaways, the Venturi tunnels, all that is really what's sucking the car to the ground. So as opposed to having big spoilers like the Senna, we hide a lot of the aerodynamics underneath the vehicle, but we also have this massive active air brake here. So basically this will move around as you're driving the car depending on your steering angle, your throttle input, your braking input, and your speed, but it'll also stand vertically tall to help increase the weight of the rear vehicle under braking, so just more stability. The other thing that I really, really love about this car, and it's throwing people because you haven't noticed it in the videos, is the exhaust. So they call this a Nirvana exhaust. And what I've learned is that when you put...
This is the exhaust?
This is there's two. There's down here, and there's two up here. So what I've learned is from McLaren, if you put the two pipes close together, it creates a higher pitch sound. And as you bring them further apart, it creates a lower pitch sound. So basically what we've done is we've changed the acoustics of the car depending on where you're standing. So venting it up like this, much like a 600 LT or a Senna, you get more of that sound into the cabin as a driver and passenger. And then the low notes that you're going to have down here from the exhaust pointing towards the back of the car, that's going to be more for everyone that sees the car
for everyone
driving
else
and whatnot. That's right. So I mean, if you've seen some in-car footage of it, it has a very high-pitched note, and that's what you hear from inside. But to actually hear the car from the outside, it's got this really deep V8 growl to it. So yeah, super unique, innovative design there, and it absolutely works.
That's what I feel, that word innovation, when I look at this car. We are in Canada here at Pfaff, McLaren Toronto. When does this become available here in Canada?
So basically, we're expecting our first few cars to land, I would say maybe in the next 2 months or so.
Great.
So perfect timing. You know, it's going to be out for the great weather that we're experiencing now. And what better time of year to take delivery of your Elva?
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mark.
My pleasure.
A beautiful review on this McLaren Elva, and thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any questions. We will do our best to get back to you in the comments section.